Welcome back, YouTube friends and fellow friends of the Badwolf. One, I want to let you guys know all this information on my channel, as always, is educational information only for U.S. nationals, those people who consider themselves to be diehard America U.S. citizens. Stage that away. Okay, that being said, I want to thank everybody for continuing to support with donations. We have seen a couple more people get the subscription services. The monthly paid can be located on the main YouTube headquarters site for the Badwolf under the join button. You can start and stop that at any point in time. It's a way of providing, monthly financial support for your boy right here. So thank you for those who have. And there's also a lot of good tidbits in there. All right, let's get to it. So this particular video is going to be about, do I want to use a lawyer? Okay, now this has nothing against lawyers. I have friends who are, and so if you need one and you need legal advice or legal representation, then by all means you should. What I'm about to talk about in just a couple of brief blurbs is for those people who didn't know that you can represent yourself without one. But here's some information that you should consider before doing either, whether representing yourself or getting a lawyer. Now, if you're going to represent yourself, you definitely need to do way more research, okay? Under pro se, representing yourself as a living man, there's a lot more to it, a lot, and so you're not going to get enough information from this video to do it on your own. Now, all of the videos, there's a good chunk of it, but you should really specialize in literally looking up how to represent yourself. Now, I do provide some forms on strategies you should know if you're going to do that, but even with that, you should definitely still do a lot more research on everything from understanding the jurisdiction by just walking in there, especially walking into the inner chamber, the judge being able to switch jurisdictions, that it's a private jurisdiction most likely, and that he's acting in if he's acting in a non-judicial manner, typically because he's dealing with statutes, then that's what it is. Typically he's a magistrate who represents a judge. Terminologies, referencing your name when they call your name, understanding that that's really them asking about your cestacate trust, your estate, in the all caps name, and not so much you as the living person, and how to properly deal with those scenarios and situations, and whatnot, and how to present certain information. So there's a lot there that the average person is not going to be able to know. I've done it. I know how to do it. I also know how to keep myself from even having to go there. But then again, if you're doing something major, like you've hurt somebody and you deprive somebody of their rights, then it's a little bit more serious. And so you're probably going to have to attend because you've allowed them to pull you into an actual criminal situation. So now you're going to be subject to their jurisdiction. Okay, so anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the main point of this particular notion here. So why do you really want a lawyer, or should you get a lawyer? Okay, so I'm just going to read some clips here that I've got. Okay, so the right of the person under the Fifth Amendment to refuse to incriminate himself is purely a personal privilege of that particular person. It was actually never intended to permit the person to plead the fact that some third person might be able to be incriminated by his testimony. So you can look this up in Hale v. Henkel, 201 USC 43. Okay. But not only that, the thing is that if you allow somebody else to represent you, okay, so they're going to call you the claimant or the belligerent or the combatant, you're defending yourself, okay? So once again, Hale versus Hinkle, you actually become a ward of the state. So when you're transferring your right into a benefit or a privilege by having somebody who's a bar member represent you. You are transferring your ability to speak for yourself to them. When you do that, you essentially are telling them instantly that you are incompetent. Sorry, don't get offended. It's just the truth. So if you're deemed incompetent, your chances of winning 100% scot-free are pretty much gone, unless you find a really dynamite lawyer, okay? In which case you spend a lot of money for that. So it is what it is. Do what you think is best. This is not legal advice. This is just education on a consultational purpose or venue. Because when somebody's defending your rights that you've essentially transferred through contract in one way or another, that's why you're there, you've contracted. This implies that you're incompetent. Clients are called wards of the court in regard to their relationship with their attorneys. You can also see a copy of this regarding law and discipline or other rules, as well as canons 1 through 9. Also, corpus juris secundum, which is Latin for corpus is body, juris is law, and secundum is second. So it really literally translates into second body of law. Okay, volume 7, section 4, attorney and client passage. This is what it states. Okay, I'm gonna read it word for word. The attorney's first duty, and to attorn actually means to turn over. Okay, so you can't claim to be an attorney, but you can claim to be an attorney in fact once you get solid on this information. Okay, so the attorney's first duty is to the courts and the public, not to the client. And wherever the duties to the client conflict with those they represent, meaning the attorney, as an officer of the court in the administration of justice, the former must yield to the latter. Okay, so even though you think they might have your best interests in mind, they really don't. They have it, but not always in mind. And if anything ever conflicts, conflict of interest, you get pushed back. Okay, so their first duties are to the court and to the public, but at the end of the day, if it ever interferes with the court or their personal or whatever, you get pushed back. Okay? So, a lawyer cannot claim that you have rights. This is under U.S. versus Johnson, 76F, SUP, S-U-P-P, 538. Look it up. Okay. Lawyers cannot defend your rights because they are franchises of the Bar Association. BAR stands for British Accredited Registry, or royalty. A corporation that licenses its franchises and regulates their activities. All lawyers can do is get the master or the captain of the particular ship, because that's how it's admiralty, maritime, to go a little bit easier on you. Because remember the word court. What is a court, people? No, it's where on TV. What do you watch? Basketball. They play on a court. This and that. Tennis court. What is it? It's a volley between two separate parties, governed by a third. Okay, think about it. So all they can really do is get you to confess to about, in some way. That's why they always want you to plead. They don't tell you there's other options besides pleading. Because when you even begin to plead, you are admitting that I'm guilty in some form. Either I did it, or no contest, yeah I did it, but I'm just saying I didn't really know. Whatever, okay? Even when you say you're pleading not guilty, you're still saying, well, I'm not really guilty, but I'm still pleading. I'm begging for you to find me this way, okay? And typically, they need you to provide the ammo to confess against yourself, to plead, to do this, that, or the other. Just like when you watch the first 48, what always happens? Some guy's sitting there, he's like, man, I ain't saying nothing, la 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 la. And then all of a sudden, sometime later, he's like, well, hey, your buddy just, he did.